Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare, Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava Radhe, Jaya Radha Madhava, Madhava Radhe, Jaya Radha Madhava, Radha Madhava Radhe, Jaya Radha Madhava, Madhava Radhe, Jaya Radha Damodar, Radha Damodar Radhe, Jaya Radha Damodar, Radha Damodar Radhe, Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Prabhupada, 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 Jaya Jaya Prabhupada, Gaur Pimanandari Hari Hari Bol. Jai Vishupad Paramahamsa Pri Vrajagacharya Stotra Satya Sri Simadhi Divine Grace Sri Boy Charanarvind Bhaktivedanta Swami Sri Prabhupada Ki Ananta Koti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Skandiviti Founder Acharyas Divine Grace Sri Prabhupada Ki Namacharya Sri Haridas Thakur Ki Samavata Bhakti Vrinda Ki Hari Nama Sankirtan ki Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki Jai Gaur Pimanande. All glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to the assembled devotees, all glories to Sri Guru and to Sri Gauranga, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Om Agyan Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Dakshirinmilitam Jena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhistam Stapitam Jena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamahyam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Juta Palakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahaganam Raghunatan Vitam Tvam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Shakamritam Syam Hey Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kansana Gaurangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanu Sutidevi Pranamami Hari Priye Vansakalpa Tirubhyasya Kripa Sindhu Jaivacha Patitanam Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Narayanam Namaskritya Naram Chaiva Narottamam Devim Saraswatim Vyasam Tato Jayamudire. Before reciting the Srimad Bhagavatam, which is a very means of conquest, let us first offer respectful obeisances unto Narayana, the Supreme Personality of Godhead, unto Narayana Rishi, the supremmost human being, unto Mother Saraswati, the goddess of learning, and unto Srila Vyasadeva, the author. Nasta prayesha badreshu Nityam Bhagavata Sevaya Bhagavati Tamasloke Bhaktir Bhavati Naistiki. By regularly hearing the Srimad Bhagavatam and by rendering a service unto the pure devotee, all that is troublesome within the heart becomes destroyed or practically to nil, and loving devotional service unto the Supreme Lord, who is praised with transcendental songs, becomes established as an irrevocable fact. Idam Bhagavatam Nama Puranam Brahma Samitam Uttama Shloka Charitam Chakara Bhagavan Rishi Nishreyasaya Lokasya Dhanyam Swastaya Namaha. Bhagavatam, known as the Grantaraj, is the king of all Vedic literatures, is the literal incarnation of God that is compiled by the incarnation of God, the Srila Vyasadeva. It is meant for the ultimate good of all people. It is all successful of this soul and all people. Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadara Srivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda. Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Om Surabhyaya Namaha.
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 Mukam karoti vacharam pangom rangayate girim yatkripatamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam yatkripatamaham bande Sri Gurum Dinataranam. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.
Welcome to our Bhagavatam class. Today we are beginning a brand new chapter, chapter number 4 from the first canto, and this chapter is entitled The Appearance of Sri Narada Ji. Yes. Text number 1. Vyasa uvacha
Vyasa uvacha
iti dhruvanam samstuya
samasuya
muninam dirgha satrinam vriddaha kula patihi sutam bavrischaha shonako abravit Vyasa uvacha iti brvanam samstuya muninam dirgha satrinam vridha kulapati sutam bhavishya shonako bravit Vyasa uvacha iti brvanam samstuya muninam dirgha satrinam vridha kulapati sutam bhavishya shonako bravit Vyasa uvacha iti brvanam samstuya muninam dirgha satrinam vridha kulapati sutam bhavishya shonako bravit Vyasa uvacha
iti bruvanam samustuya muninam dirha satrinam vridih kulapatik sutam bhakshyah shaunaka bravit
Vyasa uvacha iti brvanam samstuya muninam dirgha satrinam vridha kulapati sutam bhavricha shaunako bravit
Vyasa uvacha iti bruvanam samstuya muninam dirgha satrinam vridha kulapatik sutam bhavrichah shaunako abravit
Vyasa uvacha iti bruvanam samstuya muninam dirgha satrinam vridhah kulapatik sutam bhavrichah shonako bravit
Vyasa uvacha
iti
इति ब्रुवनं समस्तूया
इति ब्रुवाणं संस्तूय
मुनीनं दीर्घशत्रिणं
मुनीनां दीर्घसत्रिणां
वृद्धाकुलापतिसूतं
वृद्धाकुलापतिसूतं
ब्रभिश्च शौनकः ब्रवीत्
भविष्य शौनको ब्रवीत्
व्यास उवाच
व्यास उवाच
इति ब्रुवाणं संस्तूय
इति ब्रुवाणं संस्तूय
मुनीनां दीर्घसत्रिणां
मुनीनां दीर्घसत्रिणां
वृद्धाकुलापतिसूतं
वृद्धाकुलापतिसूतं
ब्रविश्च शौनको ब्रवीत्
शौनको ब्रवीत् व्यासः व्यासदेव उवाच said iti thus Brahmanam speaking samstuya congratulating Muninam of the great sages Dirgha prolonged Satrinam of those engaged the performance of sacrifice Viddaha elderly Kulapatihi head of the assembly Sutam unto Sutta Goswami Bahur Bahur Saha Bahurichaha learned Shonakaha of the name Shonaka Abravit addressed. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki. On hearing Sutta Goswami speak thus, Shonaka Muni, who was the elderly, learned leader of all the rishis engaged in that prolonged sacrificial ceremony, congratulated Sutta Goswami by addressing him as follows. Kindly repeat after me. On hearing Sutta Goswami speak thus, Shonaka Muni, who was the elderly, learned leader of all the rishis, engaged in that prolonged sacrificial ceremony, congratulated Sutta Goswami by addressing him as follows. Report. In a meeting of learned men, when there are congratulations or addresses for the speaker, the qualifications of the congratulator should be as follows. Okay. He must be the leader of the house and an elderly man. He must be vastly learned also. Sri Shonaka Rishi had all these qualifications, and thus he stood up to congratulate Sri Sutta Goswami when he expressed his desire to present Srimad Bhagavatam exactly as he heard it from Shukadeva Goswami, and also realized it personally. A personal realization does not mean that one should, out of vanity, attempt to show one's own learning by trying to surpass the previous acharya. And at the same time, he must realize the subject matter so nicely that he can present the matter for the particular circumstances in a suitable manner. And the next line is in italics, means it is emphasized, it is important. The original purpose of the text must be maintained. No obscure meaning should be screwed out of it, yet it should be presented in an interesting manner for the understanding of the audience. This is called realization. The leader of the assembly, Shonaka, could estimate the value of the speaker, Sri Sutta Goswami, simply by his uttering Yatha and Yathamati. And therefore he was very glad to congratulate him in ecstasy. No learned man should be willing to hear a person who does not represent the original Acharya. So the speaker and were bona fide in this meeting where Bhagavatam was being recited for the second time. That should be the standard of recitation of Bhagavatam, so that the real purpose can be served without difficulty. Unless this situation is created, Bhagavatam recitation for extraneous purposes is useless labor, both for the speaker and for the audience. Translation again. On hearing Sutta Goswami speak thus, Shonaka Muni, who was the elderly, learned leader of all the rishis, engaged in that prolonged sacrificial ceremony, congratulated Sutta Goswami by addressing him as follows. So just to recall, Shonaka Muni was, this is taking place in Nandisharanya, of course, and we hear in the Bhagavatam how when this 1,000 year, it was planned to have a 1,000 year sacrifice. That's a long sacrifice. At the beginning of Kali Yuga. Sages, just like we know that in India, I think it's the only country where hundreds, if not thousands, if not hundreds and thousands of sadhus, they purposely live away from common people. Satsanga, Syaga, e Vaishnava. They live in the Himalayas. Prabhupada mentions there's thousands and thousands of we call it tyagi, those who have renounced the material world, and and they only come down from the Himalayas once every 12 years. Kumbh Mela, you know, bigger than any Woodstock festival. It's the original Woodstock festival. So those sadhus, their primary purpose of sadhu is to be concerned about the welfare of people, especially their spiritual welfare, their well-being, all-around well-being. And these Kumbh Melas are actually meant for sharing knowledge, assessing, the world events, the world situation, and helping the common people to take up seriously spiritual life by receiving such transcendental knowledge. So many such sages, because of their high level of consciousness, they are called Trikalagya. Trikalagya, they can see clearly past, present, and future. Not like most people today who cannot see the future, completely forget about the past, and don't know what's going on in the present. Lost. So sages knew that anyone who knows Shastra comes just like we all know. Before we did not know, at least those not born in India. If one is born in India, one knows about yugas. Kali Yuga, Satya Yuga, Treta, like that. But most people have no idea about yugas. Yuga, and people don't understand that we're living in this very difficult period in history called Kali Yuga. So sages, out of compassion, understanding that such a difficult period would be here, they were planning this 1,000-year Yajna. Yajna is very important. That's why we want to have a permanent Yajna. Actually, in the Vedic culture, they don't have matches, right? No lighters, no matches. By mantra, they chant, and fire comes, and fire never becomes extinguished. They keep the Yajna. I think here in Mayapur at one point, it might have been there, because when you have Gurukul, it's something we should start here actually, like a permanent, there's a name for it, you probably know, permanent fire, sacrificial fire, and people come and take from there for their needs. Yeah. So there's no need of, petrol, lighters, or matches, all these things. And so they were preparing this 1,000-year Yajna. This is the setting of what is taking place. And there's a picture somewhere in the Bhagavatam, and we see all of these sadhus. Most of them had beards. Very difficult to shave, in the forest. And their only purpose and interest is to hear and to understand and to advance ultimately in Krishna consciousness. So we will recall that when they began this 1,000-year Yajna, the Yajna wasn't going well. And so Sutta Goswami, who was there, he left, and he happened to wander by Krishna's arrangement to the bank of the Ganges, where Parikshit Maharaj was receiving the Bhagavatam as being presented by Shukadeva Goswami. So here we are. Prabhupada is very practical in describing what is Vaishnava etiquette in terms of addressing and receiving important personalities. So if someone is going to speak on behalf of an assembly, as mentioned here, he should be elderly, and he should be vastly learned as well. Yeah. So so this is the beginning of the speaking of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Main point, one of the main points mentioned here is that we should be hearing the Bhagavatam, we should be receiving the Bhagavatam, and we should also be transmitting that Bhagavatam after realizing its purport. In other words, not only we should be hearing, but we should also be meditating or understanding uh, what we are reading, so that we can nicely share it or transmit it. This has been, it's an ongoing process. We are extremely fortunate to be connected with that ongoing, it's called Guru Parampara, disciplic succession. That original message, same thing for the Bhagavad Gita also, is coming in Guru Parampara, and Prabhupada warns against people who are not in proper parampara and misuse this knowledge of Srimad Bhagavatam, which is probably only to be found, well, maybe now it's outside of India also, but traditionally that knowledge has been kept within India largely. But now this knowledge of Bhagavatam, Prabhupada's mercy, largely, actually, and by the special, we could say, mission, special mission, special mandate. Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mandate is to actually spread this knowledge of the Bhagavatam, this knowledge of Vedic culture all over the world, and it is ongoing. So there is a need to hear. I was just thinking how I'm not sure we can do this during our short 1 month period, but when one is a student, then after some time one is expected to become a teacher. Means that some of our students are expected at some point to also give classes, become teachers. Actually, this week we will be having for our students some new teachers. One of them is supposed to come this morning. And generally that is the special feature of actually Gurukula. Traditionally, Gurukula is to make students into teachers, isn't it? Because Brahmana needs primarily to become a teacher. And also Prabhupada mentions in the essay that we are studying, Gita Nagari, that the primary emphasis will be to actually create Brahmanas. We can understand that because we are very much lacking in Brahmanas, therefore so many things are not in order. For example, the very subject matters that are traditionally studied in traditional education are scattered, or some of them not even available. And this is part of what institutions, this particular institution, I would say, of Varnashram College, and that's why we're planning to have a research institute here, that was very much Prabhupada's desire. Prabhupada sent a group of devotees many years ago with a mandate to visit especially different libraries and to photograph ancient texts that were on the verge of of disappearing, and that was one of the very important works of the Bhaktivedanta archives. Everyone knows what is Bhaktivedanta archives?
Bhaktivedanta?
Bhaktivedanta, Bhaktivedanta archives. Everyone knows Bhaktivedanta. Bhaktivedanta archives. Where is Bhaktivedanta archives? North Carolina. There is a community. It's called Prabhupada Village. Prabhupada Village. The folio, the database is from there actually, and I don't know the details, but they have been preserving and making available, of course, through the folio, all of Prabhupada's, not only Srila Prabhupada's writings, but many of the writings of, let's say, the Goswamis of Vrindavan, etc. Because India, especially, being the land of Dharma, has a tremendous amount of, treasure house of knowledge, as Prabhupada would say, treasure house of knowledge, which is especially meant to be deeply studied and deeply realized by persons, especially who are meant to be brahmanas. So, although Varnashram College is for introducing all of the Varnas, we we can safely say that it is especially meant to focus on Brahmana. Brahmana Kshatriya are the ones who, Brahmana Kshatriya students. I was thinking how once we actually, now we're just like on a, what do you call it, a pre-run, or this 1 month course we're having now during Kartik is like a little sample of what down the line it will be. What is needed is once the college actually starts, within the first year, regardless of who, well, of course, there'll be some kind of screening to accept students because we can only accept limited number of students. But within 1 year, whoever joins, by following what our acharyas explain in terms of identifying the varna of individuals, within 1 year, by the end of 1 year, we will have classified each student in a particular varna, and accordingly one will take up studies according to those varnas. It's difficult to determine fully before one is accepted in an educational institution. When the Vedic culture was in place, it was easier because the Vedic culture was there, and the qualified brahmanas were there also. And usually that would happen within, like a village, where a village is like one big family, and whoever would be born in a village, then those who are elderly brahmanas, by the time a young boy reaches the age of 10 or 15, everyone knows him. I mean, everyone in the village knows him. This guy's a rascal, this one's this one's that, yeah. This one's very intelligent. So, because we're starting, it's like new, so we don't know people who have some interests. People who will come and join our Varnashram college, of course, will have some means of knowing something about them, obviously. But to know them to the point, to the extent that we can actually help them to actually know and identify their Varna, it will take some time. That's part of what we are planning to do, so that we especially um, facilitate. Of course, we need not only brahmanas, we also need qualified, in all the varnas, qualified kshatriyas, qualified vaishyas, qualified shudras. But especially we are lacking, and I mean that's the whole purpose why Srila Prabhupada went to the Western world. We are lacking in brahmanas. And it is only the brahmanas. The brahmanas are the teachers. So it's like here Sutta Goswami, he heard Srimad Bhagavatam from Shukadeva Goswami. Now he's going to speak it, having assimilated, having realized it, and then it becomes effective. So we need to train. We need to train, especially brahmanas, whose primary activity and primary aim will be to spend hours and hours in the Shastra, hearing, speaking, like the Goswamis of Vrindavan. That was their main activity, isn't it? They didn't go to Mathura to work, They had no. Brahmanas are not supposed to have a job. If brahmanas have a job, then they can't actually be brahmanas, isn't it? Their main preoccupation is meant to be learning, understanding, and teaching, actually, Vedic knowledge. And then, then this knowledge of the Bhagavatam especially can be nicely presented, so that just like all the sages in Naimisharanya definitely benefited immensely from Sutta Goswami's presentation of the Srimad Bhagavatam. So similarly, it's a little bit connected with Prabhupada's statement and intent also of boiling down the milk. Who knows what boiling down the milk means? I mean, besides boiling down the milk.
Deeply understanding. Deeply understanding.
Yes. Yes. So, I will read the text again if there's any comment on this. On hearing Sutta Goswami speak, thus Shonaka Muni, who was the elderly learned leader of all the rishis engaged in that prolonged sacrificial ceremony, congratulated Sutta Goswami by addressing him as follows. Any comments or questions?
Один вопрос таких. Если в Кали-югу жертвоприношение действует яги, то почему, санкиртна яги получает только 10, то почему проводим жертвоприношение, если не действует?
It is said that in Kali Yuga the sacrifices doesn't work. Like only Sankirtana Yagya it works.
Yes.
And if only Sankirtana Yagya works, why we are doing yagyas, sacrifices?
Yes. There is injunction that in Kali Yuga certain activities, we're talking about big yagyas that used to be practiced, that involved huge amounts of money, huge amounts of grain, especially huge amounts of ghee.
Yes.
And because such ghee is not available, and also required very learned brahmanas who knew all kinds of mantras, perfectly able to chant. So those kinds of yagyas we cannot do. What we are doing is on a small scale, uh, and that is not the main emphasis. Our main jagya, of course, is Sankirtan jagya, but we also do jagyas. We also have deity worship, although deity worship, temple worship was from previous yuga. So some remnants of that we are keeping, because most people cannot just sit down and chant Hare Krishna. So there is our Goswamis of Vrindavan, under the guidance and direction of Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. They formulated and they explained what, in addition to chanting Hare Krishna, what activities we can do according to our situation where we are very limited. So yeah, that is one of the injunctions rather, in Kali Yuga, not to perform these huge jagyas, or especially it mentions about, huge jagyas that required so many things that are not possible to have in Kali Yuga. So we are simultaneously following that injunction, because sometimes we see some people attempting such huge jagyas. We see sometimes, but so what we are doing is very basic compared to what used to be done before, and that is not our main emphasis. Our main emphasis is is introducing the Yuga Dharma for the sage, which is the chanting of the holy name and encouraging, training people to take up to Krishna consciousness.
Maharaj, what mean junction? Did you say junction?
Junction.
What it mean?
What does junction mean?
What does junction mean?
What does junction mean?
Yes.
Okay. Just like if you drive on the highway, and then you come to a point where you can turn right or turn left. That's the junction.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, it's a at the end of every yuga, there's a sandhya. Sandhya is like a junction. Every day, actually, there are three, right. So,
My choice. Yeah, choice.
yeah, it means at a junction, you have a choice. You can go this way or that way. Yeah, junction. It's, the word is not mentioned here, huh? In the text. The word junction is, I guess we mentioned the word junction. Sometimes junction may mean at the beginning of Kali Yuga, at the junction of, the end of Dwapara Yuga, the beginning of Kali Yuga, that's a junction. Yeah. Every morning we have a junction between staying in bed and getting up from Mangalarti.
Ну, каждое утро мы решаем, что утром делать. Все на свете.
Should I not?
Что-то решил решение.
Okay, we can close here. Jai Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai Srila Prabhupada Ki
Jai.
So what happened to the